It's about I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Being able to run as he shoots the moon to the fans here in Green Bay.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Here we go.
Goff from the gun to the end zone, and it's caught. Touchdown.
This is BS Sports.
And welcome in on a beautiful, beautiful evening here in mid-Michigan. It is dark outside. It was freezing rain this morning, but the weather could not stop the joy. The Detroit Lions are in the NFC Championship game. I didn't think I was ever going to see it. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I had some level of an inclination that, mathematically at some point the stars were going to align, things were going to happen. Eventually the Lions would figure it out. But they are now, as we stand, one win away from playing in their first Super Bowl. And we'll talk about the game they played against the Bucs because it was a heck of a game. We got a lot to break down, obviously, with the divisional round. A lot of stuff that went down that is interesting. We got a new Titans head coach, first new hire of the offseason. And then in the NBA world, we have the Bucs deciding to just throw Adrian Griffin off of a cliff. I don't know what's going on. We also have some hockey I want to briefly hit on. But we have to start, of course, with the Lions and the Bucs. First of all, let me just pull up the game on this here. Here we go. So, look, this was, and I knew it going in. I knew it was going to be a tough game. There was a lot of people who I think thought this game we were just going to go in. We were going to blow the Bucs out. They shouldn't have even been there. They were in the worst division. They barely won it. They won it in the last week. I think they won it in the last week of the season or maybe the second to last week. It was not a good year for the NFC South. But I knew this was a team that was red hot. Bucs were rolling. They were playing well. Baker Mayfield wanted to get some revenge of sorts. Obviously he lost to the Lions earlier in the season. And, well, Detroit got the last laugh. And first of all, there's just one thing that has to be established at this point, and it's something that Lions fans have been fighting over basically all season. It sort of got into a heated point near the later stage of the season, around the Thanksgiving and the Chicago game. But here it is: Jared Goff is your quarterback. I mean, I said if he can win this division, check. If he can win a playoff game, check. He's gonna get an extension one way or the other. He's done that and then some. He's taken this team to the NFC Championship game. In the playoffs, he's thrown for over 500 yards. He's got 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's been basically perfect in the postseason. Now, granted, both home games, as long as he's been on the Lions, especially since last year, he's played better at home than on the road. But it's not like I just don't know what else he has to do. He made some really, really impressive throws. That final throw to Amon-Ra St. Well, wasn't the final throw. That final touchdown throw to Amon-Ra St. Brown that really kind of pushed the game out of reach, I think, for the Buccaneers. That was just a dime. It wasn't like, oh, he's throwing to a guy open. No, he was throwing in coverage. It wasn't like, oh, he's, it's a bunch of yak. It's yards after catch. No, it was just a dime. It was just up in the air. It just drops right into the hands of St. Brown. It was a beautiful throw. It was a beautiful catch. And the thing is, there's just, if you don't think that Jared Goff is worthy of that extension at this point, there's really nothing short of winning a Super Bowl that he can do. If this team goes on to win a Super Bowl, very good chance he's the Super Bowl MVP. And I don't know if people are ready to accept that. Now, again, people will say, well, he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not, Josh Allen. He's not, and we'll get to Josh Allen in a little bit. He's not, Lamar Jackson. He's not Joe Burrow. It's all of that can be true. But what he is he's efficient. He's effective. He gets you down the field. In a situation where you were up just one touchdown, you needed a drive. You were pinned all the way back at your own, 8. Let me see if I can find the actual drive here. Let's see. This was, 89 yards. You were up by just one touchdown. You have a chance. Fourth quarter, late in the game, you're pinned with 12-12 to go in the fourth quarter. You have a chance, march down the field, try to put this game away with a touchdown. And ye went 89 yards and just took you down the field. You had the deep pass to Jamison Williams. You had let me see. You had him get sacked. You had the pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown. You had where is it? You had obviously the pass. That was the pass to St. Brown for the touchdown. You had the pass to Sam Laporta for a first down. It wasn't for 3 yards, excuse me, not for a first down there. You had the pass to Montgomery for a first down. It wasn't, chucking it 50 yards like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. It wasn't, F it, Calvin Johnson's down there somewhere like Matthew Stafford used to do back in the day. It was effective. It was efficient. And I think whether you like it or not, he's your quarterback. And I really don't have a problem with it. If this is the kind of quarterback play that I can get roughly on a week-to-week basis from Jared Goff, I'm okay with it. We can get rid of this notion that, he's only doing it against these bad teams. He's doing it in the playoffs against playoff teams. Okay, he's doing it against the Rams. He's doing it against the Bucs. Those are two playoff teams. Those are two teams. In the Buccaneers, a team that won their division, and in the Rams, a team that very well could have won their division if it wasn't for the San Francisco 49ers being the powerhouse that they were. Right? It's not like we're talking about, he's doing this against, the Bears or against the Panthers or something. He's doing this against good teams because he's a good quarterback. And yes, is he insulated? Yes. Does he have a lot of weapons? Yes. His defense is not all that reliable a lot of the time. It's been playing pretty good the last 6 games. I think they're averaging 24 points a game or something, maybe less than 24 points a game, something like that. But he's your guy. And you just got to deal with it. I really got no problem. If this is my quarterback for the next 3-4 years, I'm okay with it. I can live with it. That's fine with me. And on the point of the defense, I think there's one philosophy that I can identify with this defense, especially in the postseason. And it's bend, don't break. And I think somebody else pointed this out, so I'm not going to – I don't know. I don't remember where I heard it. I saw it maybe somewhere. But it's bend, don't break. Let me point this out to you, okay? How many yards did Baker Mayfield throw for? He threw for 349 yards, and he lost the game. He threw 3 touchdowns. That's a touchdown for every 100 yards he passed and then some. He did throw 2 interceptions. That's big, right? First drive of the game, he throws an interception. Final drive of the game, he throws an interception. Those 2 interceptions changed the pace of the game. We turned that first interception into a field goal. We turned that last interception into kneeing it down, right? That's the difference. And it's they give up a lot of yards in the air, 349 in the air. You don't run on this team. Just 89 total rushing yards. Rachaad White, he had 55 total rushing yards. Chase Edmonds had 19. Baker Mayfield had 15. You had very little rushing threat from this Buccaneers team. It was, you have to beat us in the air. And you know what? I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it a little bit. Mike Evans had 147 yards. You know what happened? Mike Evans' team lost. Lions' team won. Full stop. The defense won. And you had Aiden Hutchinson getting involved, had a sack. You had Brian Branch get a couple of TFLs and a sack. You had Ifeatu Melifonwu get a sack and a half. And you had Jalen Reeves maybe get a half a sack. You had all these guys. You had Derek Barnes, obviously, with the game-winning interception. It's not a bunch of – it's not the steel curtain. But it's effective because this offense is potent. If we score 30 points on you, there's a good chance we win the game. And if we get turnovers, you're not winning the game. No, it's not going to happen. If we're getting more than 1 turnover on the game, we're probably going to win because we're going to score at least a field goal on either one or both of those, let alone a touchdown or 2. It's one of those things where I get why people get upset about this defense. And I'm fully aware of it. I was upset at the defense later in the season. But when you're not giving up 24 points a game, your last like 6. I think that stat is accurate. I could be totally wrong on that. And when you're getting the turnovers, when you're effective in the moments that you need to be effective, like down just one possession, what does the defense do? They make a play. Derek Barnes gets his first career interception. What do they do when they fail? When they go 3 and out on their first opening drive? No problem, no problem, offense. We'll just get a turnover. We'll just force a third and long. I couldn't tell you how many third and longs this defense forced. And yeah, did they convert a lot of those? They converted a few of them. But you force a team into third and longs, they get desperate. They got to make those kind of plays. And I'd rather lose to a team that is, that is forced to have to convert a 3rd and 17 every other drive than just let them march down the field methodically. Right? Again, it's not always pretty. It's not always going to be fun, but it is what it is. And one more thing I wanted to point out about this team. I look at the 49ers, and we'll preview that game later in the show. Are they kind of the future of this team in a way? And I know literally they're the future because we're going to be playing them on Sunday. But I mean in the way that team is structured, in the way the team is insulated around Brock Purdy. And they really have never had great, elite, quote-unquote, quarterback play, right? Yeah, Jimmy G, you had, Trey Lance, who is no longer with us. I think people have forgotten about Trey Lance because he's the backup for the Cowboys. Yeah, and now you have Brock Purdy, and nobody really knows whether or not Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. I think people feel the same way about Jared Goff. Now, to be fair, you have a little bit more, of like a view of Jared Goff. He's been playing in the league for much longer. But I think that it's a similar kind of team in that it's insulating around a quarterback who has their limitations. It's an elite run game. You have McCaffrey, we have Gibbs and Montgomery. You have Debo on the other side, you have Al-Amron on this side. You have Ayuk, you have Jamison Williams / maybe Josh Reynolds. You have Kittle, we have Sam Laporte. I'm just pointing out positional, I'm equating each position. But I think you look at the talent slots in this team, you have a great O-line in San Fran, you have a great O-line in Detroit. You have, I think, a budding defensive line in Detroit with Hutchinson and McNeil, and hopefully Houston will be back to play this game, assuming he is the kind of guy that we're expecting him to be. Like, you have those kinds of players. And you have some pretty nice looking linebackers. You got Jack Campbell, who's playing well. You got Derek Barnes, who's still a pretty young player. You got Alex Anzalone, who's the captain of that defense. Like, I look at the 49ers and I think if there is a team that is a vision of the future for this franchise, for this Lions team, I think that is the team that I would most say. Because they're not the Chiefs. The Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. Jared Goff is nothing like Patrick Mahomes. They're not the Ravens. They're not the Bills. They're not any of these other, playoff high caliber teams. They are most like the 49ers. And that is why I think it's going to be an interesting game on Sunday. But we'll get to that later in the show. Next up, we got to move on to this playoff recap. So, full disclosure, I didn't catch all of these games. I was on the road Saturday, so I didn't catch most of both of these games. I caught a little bit of the San Fran Green Bay game near the end, like the final, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes or so of the fourth quarter, maybe less than that. And I caught maybe the first and second quarter of the Baltimore Houston game. But first things first, I got to talk about the Baltimore game, and I'm really only going to be looking at it from a box score / final score perspective. But from the first half, it looked like it was going to be a close game. And then I think at that point, the inexperience of C.J. Stroud met the experience of Lamar Jackson. Now, to be fair, neither of these quarterbacks threw for a lot of yards total. I mean, you just look at the box score. Lamar Jackson threw for 152 yards. C.J. Stroud threw for 175. Jackson had a couple of touchdowns, though, but Jackson also ran for a couple of touchdowns. Jackson was their leading rusher. Like that was a, quintessential Lamar Jackson game. And I know that MVP considerations are not based on the postseason technically, but I'm sorry, maybe they should, because this was the MVP game for Lamar Jackson. He takes his team to the conference championship. And the Texans are a great story. I think they got a really nice future ahead of them, assuming that CJ Stroud is their guy and he's as good as he has been this year for the rest of time. I think they're going to be good. They're going to get Tank Dell back. Unfortunately, this game, Devin Singletary, I mean, did you even play? You ran for 22 yards, buddy. And when your leading receiver has caught for just 68 yards, you're probably not having a great day on offense. The only touchdown that they scored was on a punt return. So not a great day for the Texans. I think it was just a mismatch. I think it was just the Ravens are just the better team overall. They're just built better. They're top to bottom. They have more talent. They're more they're more experienced in this. But I do think that the Texans have a good future. Regardless, though, I think the Ravens showed that they are legit. It's not, all the playoff Lamar things and all that. I think that can at least be put to rest for at least up until Sunday, because playoff Lamar looked pretty dang good. Playoff Lamar looked like the best player in the league right now. And look, I like Lamar. I've had like a love-hate relationship with Lamar Jackson, because last year he hurt me in fantasy football, and this year it's like I didn't have him in fantasy football, but he's lighting it up, and I maybe I'll bring. You know what, Lamar, you can come back home unless you're playing the Lions in the Super Bowl. Then I want you to go to the strip clubs and go to the drug-addled orgies and just don't show up. Don't show up. Just hang out in Vegas. Go play at the casinos. That's fine with me. I don't need you to show up to that game. That's okay with me. Just put Tyler Huntley in there. I don't know. Maybe he can wear your jersey, and we won't even. We'll just pretend that it's you. Maybe he can wear a Lamar Jackson some sort of costume. I don't know. Is there a Lamar Jackson Halloween costume? That'd be kind of an interesting. I don't know what that would entail. Maybe they could get I don't know what the dreads. Is that what that is? I don't know. They could just wear a wig that kind of looks like Lamar Jackson's hair. That's fine. But anyway, I do think that this is a really good Ravens team. And I do think on the flip side, if you're the Texans, you're playing with house money. So, you lost. It sucks that you got blown out that way, that you really didn't show up in a way. I would be disappointed in my team if they didn't show up. Like if you just get blown out like that, I'd be disappointed. But at the end of the day, you have the bright future. You have the talent. It's just a matter of building off of this. You have the coach, you have the quarterback. You can go from there. So with that, we'll move along to the next game, which is the San Fran Green Bay game. San Francisco survives Green Bay. This was one of those games where I turn it on and I'm like, oh, Green Bay is winning. Well, that would mean that if they win, we would host the NFC Championship game. Although I will say, I'm a little bit glad that the Niners won, because I don't know if I could take the heartbreak if the Packers beat the Lions in the NFC Championship game to go to the Super Bowl with a rookie quarterback in Jordan Love, who I wanted nothing more than him to just absolutely stink. But at the very least, he certainly didn't play that well today, or at least that day. He did have a couple of touchdowns, but he also had a couple of interceptions, threw for less than 100 yards, or threw for less than 200 yards, I should say. If he threw for less than 100 yards, I'd be surprised how close this game was. But it was a low-scoring affair. I mean, Green Bay came out, dialed in the third quarter, and then in the fourth, they just died. And I think that missed field goal, that was a sign of things to come at the very end. When their kicker, whose name escapes me, let me see if I can pull him up. When their kicker, Anders Carlson, who I believe is a rookie kicker. I mean, you go 2 for 3, but that third one was the one that mattered the most. You would have made that, they would have needed a touchdown just to tie it up. And yeah, they just methodically marched down the field, and then Christian McCaffrey put them away. But I do think this was a similar showing. This was a similar kind of thing that the Ravens and the Texans game was, where you had two teams basically playing with house money. The Packers, obviously, they were the 7th seed, and they were fighting for a chance, and all the way up until the fourth quarter could have played in the NFC Championship game. But unfortunately, I think the experience of the 49ers, I think the talent level of the 49ers was just too much. And look, I get it. Missed field goal, but it's one of those things where they got the ball back up or down just 3. All they needed to do was get into field goal range, and Jordan Love throws an inexplicable interception. Like, I when I watched that play, Like seeing it live, I was like, oh, geez, that sucks. But then seeing the replays where you're like, oh my gosh, he's running and then he's throwing it. He's doing all of the things that coaches say not to do if you're the quarterback. Is it like he's running with the ball, he's throwing it against his body, and it's into double coverage. I mean, Jordan, did you even look to where you were throwing, buddy? But I mean, to his credit, to Brock Purdy's credit, on the flip side, he had a solid game, 252 yards and a touchdown, or at least I should say his stats indicate that he had a solid game, because that first half he was basically not playing. They had just 7 points in the first half, up just 1. Like, the rain was certainly affecting him. So he's going to be glad that this Sunday it's going to be hot and sunny in San Francisco. But you make it a little close, and Brock Purdy will do this where he'll put up a stat line where you're like, yeah, that's pretty good. But realistically, you know, if Green Bay could have put it together earlier, they could have had this game won in the first half. But they really never took hold of it until the third quarter. And then in the fourth quarter, when they really had that opportunity to ice this game, you had the Aaron Jones massive run. I thought at that point, it's like, oh my gosh, they're going to win. And we're going to play them in the conference championship. It's going to happen. It's like the script writers are settling the rematch. You know, best 2 out of 3. We won the first game on the road. They won the game at home on Thanksgiving. We're going to try to get the last laugh back at home. And it was not to be. So San Francisco pulls off the win. And I saw the stat. It was like they had been to 4 out of the last 5 NFC championship games or something like that. I was like, geez, Louise. You know what's terrible about that? Is they've been to all those conference championship games and they got 0 Super Bowls. That is, I mean, obviously they've won a Super Bowl in the past, but out of those 4 out of 5, they have 0 Super Bowls. They really could have or should have won against the Chiefs initially in that first trip they had with Jimmy G. Boy, wouldn't that have changed the outlook on Jimmy Garoppolo? If he would have won that Super Bowl, they probably don't move on from him. You probably never even hear of Brock Purdy. You probably never hear of Trey Lance. Trey Lance probably doesn't get drafted by the 49ers. He probably gets, I don't know, maybe he gets drafted by Detroit or something. I really don't know. It just changed everything. It would have changed everything. And I don't know. I think they're still really good. And obviously playing Detroit on Sunday, San Francisco, they're probably going to be ready. And that crowd is going to be raucous because they want a Super Bowl as badly as Detroit does. But at least they know what it's like to have won a Super Bowl. At least some of them do. So move along then to the final game, because we already broke down the Lions game to start the show. Move on to what I think is the most disappointing of the games. And not disappointing because the quality of the game was bad. The quality of the game was very good. It was how it ended. And just this Chiefs-Bills rivalry, I'm sorry, but it's over. This isn't a rivalry. This is just 2 teams that always meet. And the Chiefs are the big brother, and the Bills are the little brother. It's the Washington Generals against the Harlem Globetrotters. It doesn't matter if it's at home. It doesn't matter if you change the overtime rules. It doesn't matter if they got 13 seconds left. It doesn't matter if the receiver core sucks. It doesn't matter if the Bills are the hotter team. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because Patrick Mahomes is a winner, and Josh Allen is a loser. And I hate to say that. I really do, because I love Josh Allen. I thought the Bills were going to be so good. I had them winning close to 15 games this season. I thought they were going to be absolutely star-studded, amazing. But they were not. They were, in fact, not. And they got themselves into this hole, and they dug themselves out. They won the division in the final week of the season. They got home field advantage. They beat the Steelers. They had a chance to really finish this off. This was their opportunity. Patrick Mahomes has to come in the cold. January in Buffalo. Not a good time. And they just lost. They just lost. And I can't get over this. Stephon Diggs is a head case right now. I don't know what happened to him from last year to this year, but he's just, there's something off about his connection with Josh Allen. Like, Stephon Diggs had just 3 catches for 21 yards. Steph, did you even play? And he should have had, 70 yards because he had a ball go right through his hands perfectly thrown by Josh Allen, one-on-one. Steph Diggs, in theory, one of the best wide receivers in the league, and the ball just goes through him like he's Swiss cheese. I feel so bad about it because I love Stephon Diggs. He was one of my first, or I don't know which pick it was in fantasy. I took Stephon Diggs. That's how much I love Steph Diggs. I think he's a fantastic player. But I don't know. Maybe there's something off with him. And to another point, this Bills offense has not been the same since Brian Daboll took that head coaching job over in New York. It's just not been the same for Josh Allen. And I know they changed the defensive coordinator. I know they did that in the middle of the season. It seemed like things were starting to work. But it's like this team is just cursed. And I hate to think of it that way because I don't believe in sports curses. I believe if you have the right people in charge, literally it doesn't matter. Your team will succeed if you do the right things. If you make more good moves than you make bad moves, your team is going to have success. I mean, how many sports curses had to be broken, and how many teams have to have not win a championship in order for that to be shown as true? We've literally had 3 teams in 3 leagues all win their first championship this year. You had the Golden Knights, you had the Nuggets, and you had the Rangers. All 3 teams who have never won, I guess to be fair, the Knights, not exactly, a long-standing franchise, but I don't think, and nor were they in any way cursed. But you look at the Rangers, they certainly had a lot of bad luck. You look at the Nuggets, the Nuggets were terrible. The Nuggets my whole life had been terrible. But the Bills, the fact that they lose that game on a field goal that goes wide right, I don't know. Now, I don't know if anybody, I don't know if you are a believer in God. I personally am a believer in God. I don't know if God is just having his way with the Buffalo Bills, because I gotta say, God bless those Buffalo Bills fans, because they are gonna need the Lord to keep themselves afloat. Like, you have generational trauma at this point. You have people who were around in the 90s who watched that kick go wide right and then watched the Bills subsequently lose 3 straight Super Bowls after already losing that one. And now you have Buffalo Bills fans coming up now who just watched their team lose the game in the exact same way. Now, it wasn't the Super Bowl, but it was the same end. It was a field goal that went wide right. I don't know. And on Josh Allen, because I haven't really talked about it. Josh Allen played a great game. Okay. He had 3 touchdowns total. 2 of them were on his feet. 1 of them was in the air. I just have to say this, and it's really unfortunate. Who has Josh Allen beaten in the playoffs? And I know it's not on him. I know it's not on him. I understand. But you look at the teams and you look at the quarterbacks that he has beaten. The best quarterback that he has beaten off the top of my head is like Mac Jones. Like, I mean, it's like first round Josh Allen, undefeated, never lost. I'm not sure about that. He's probably lost in the first round. The moment he encounters Patrick Mahomes, it's like I don't know. It's like either he falls apart or his whole rest of his team falls apart. So in practice, he falls apart, right? Like, you only threw for 186 yards, but I don't really care when you run for 72. You make up for it. Like, I don't understand. And I want to understand. I want Josh Allen to be good. I love Josh Allen. I love the Bills. If I had a team in the AFC outside of the LA Chargers, because Seth, I would root for the Bills. And I was rooting for the Bills this game. I've been rooting for the Bills basically every playoff that they're in, but they just always lose. They just always lose, and it's always to the Chiefs. Like, what's amazing is, like, you know what it is? It's like the monkey's paw. It's like Bills fans were begging. They were begging for Tom Brady to be taken away so that they wouldn't have to play Tom Brady ever again in the playoffs. And the monkey's paw curled, and they never had to play Tom Brady again in the playoffs or in general. But they had to play Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, and that apparently is much, much worse, because I think in a way, Patrick Mahomes has hurt them more than Tom Brady ever could, because when Tom Brady was up, they never stood a chance, right? Like there was never any opportunity for them to beat Tom Brady. Those teams were terrible in the 2000s and early 2010s. But man, I don't know how you go on as a Bills fan. I got to be honest. I understand if people I get emotionally involved. Anybody who watches the live reactions know how emotionally involved I get. But geez, Louise, it's bad. It's not good. And keep your heads up, Bills fans. But I don't know. This was kind of your shot, and it's gone. It's gone. So, with that, on a happy note, we will move along to previewing. Well, okay, we're going to preview them at the end of the show, so that makes more sense. So, let's go on then. We'll keep it in the NFL. Let's talk about this Titans new coach. So, the Titans decided to get ahead of schedule. They decided to hire Brian Callahan as their new head coach after firing Mike Vrabel. Now, if you're like me, and I think many of you are, you probably were thinking, who? Who is this guy? Well, apparently, and this I'm not totally sure about this. Apparently, he was the Bengals offensive coordinator. Now, I was not aware of this. I don't think many Titans fans were aware of this. I think basically, unless you were a Bengals fan or maybe an AFC North fan, or maybe just like you're just really good with names, you probably didn't even know who the heck this guy was, right? Like you probably were like, I don't know, like it's like he could walk in tomorrow. He could walk into my apartment in the middle of the night. I wouldn't know who he is. I'd be like, get out of my house. What are you doing here? But no, they hired Callahan, and to Callahan's credit, he does have some experience. This is from Bleacher Report here. Callahan has 13 years of NFL coaching experience, beginning in 2010 when he served as the Denver Broncos coaching assistant. He stayed in Denver through its Super Bowl winning 2015 season before going to the Detroit Lions to become the quarterbacks coach in 2016-2017. It should be noted that 2016 the Lions made the playoffs with Matthew Stafford, so he was the quarterback coach when Matthew Stafford last made the playoffs with the Lions. He assumed the same position with the Oakland Raiders in 2018. That was, I believe, a Pro Bowl season for Derek Carr in 2018. Let me actually double check that. Derek Carr, I want to say he was a Pro Bowler in 2018. I think that was one of his better years. No, I'm thinking 2017. So year prior is a Pro Bowler, but he still threw for 4,000 yards. Still had a really good season, at least yardage wise. He didn't have a great season, touchdown, interception. He threw for a lot of yards. All right, trying to help you out, Titans fans. I'm sorry. But anyway, Tennessee, and before moving on, after that, he moved on to Cincinnati, where he was offensive coordinator. So clearly an offensive guy, clearly a quarterback coaching guy. Coach Matthew Stafford, Coach Derek Carr. He was there for. I don't think he wasn't the quarterback coach. I don't think he was the quarterback coach for Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, in Denver. But he was there. He was present, I suppose. And then obviously he working with Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, he helped Joe Burrow in that offense work, in theory. But I don't want to just jump in and say like this is the most amazing hire ever, because I don't know. I don't even know who this guy is. But I also think this is kind of a reasonable thing. Like I think this is a hire that makes sense. They want to develop Will Levis. They drafted Will Levis for a reason. And I know at the beginning of the season, or even at the offseason, I should say, when I was unsure of what the Titans were going to do at quarterback, and there were some Titans fans who were like, Ryan Tannehill's – clearly, I don't think their front office thinks that way, at least not at this point. I think they're going to try to develop Will Levis in a way that Joe Burrow was developed. Now, problem is, Will Levis is not nearly in the same situation as Joe Burrow was in. Joe Burrow, terrible O-line, but when he came back, he had Jamar Chase, he had Joe Mixon, he had T. Higgins, he had, he had plenty of weapons, is the point. the Titans are sort of devoid of good players. That's sort of the problem for the Titans is they don't have a lot of great players. I don't even know how long they'll have DeAndre Hopkins, but if he's your number one wide receiver in 2025, well, you better just hope he's found the fountain of life, or the fountain of youth, I should say, because that's not ideal. I don't think that's ideal for your wide receiver one to be an aging vet who is there to sort of help solidify that defense. I don't know that it's ever been that's actually been made official at this point, but it seemed like Derrick Henry was retiring. But either way, you're not players are getting older. Like there's a certain point where it feels like they gotta figure it out, and they gotta change who is in the room personnel wise. I think they had their opportunity a little bit with Vrabel. They were the number one seed a couple of years ago, and they just lost. Like they ran into a Joe Burrow, and that was their big chance, and they just haven't been able to recover. So I think this is either going to be boom or bust. I don't know that it's going to be middle of the road. I think, well, I guess I could see it being kind of mid, but I think it has more to do than with the front office making the right personnel decisions. Like whether or not, I don't even remember the guy's name. What's his name? Whether or not Brian Callahan is actually a good coach, it's sort of a mystery to me. Like I really don't know. But he certainly has experience. Certainly has experience with quarterbacks. So I think it could work. I'll end it at that. Okay, I think it could work, but you're gonna need to fix a lot of things. You're gonna need to fix the defense. You're gonna need to fix the O-line. You're gonna need to fix the D-line. You're gonna need to fix special. You're gonna need to fix basically everything. So they're entering into a kind of rebuild, I think. But that is what it is. So hopefully it works out for them. I would like to see the Titans succeed, but it just seemed like they're a little bit in no man's land. So they're either going to be really good next year, or Will Levis is going to be very bad. And well, I don't think they're going to be really good. I think they could be kind of average, maybe a fun team, or they're going to be really bad. Which I don't know. When you're sort of starting over, it might not be such a bad thing. So with that, we'll move along further. We'll move away from the NFL for a little bit because there's a couple of things I want to talk about. So, do I want to talk? Yeah, we'll talk hockey first, okay? Because right now the Wings, they're playing really solid in the month of January, okay? I got my full Wings gear on right now. They got a 2-1 lead over the Stars right now. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good right now. But more than just feeling good, the Wings are playing good, okay? I remember beginning of January, I said, look, they're going on a road trip to start the month. I need them to win 2 out of 3. They won 3 out of 3. They swept California. Then they lose in overtime to the Oilers. That kind of sucks. Then they go and they win 3 in a row. Beat the Kings, beat the Leafs, and beat the Panthers in overtime. Not all of them were in overtime, but they win 3 games against 3 playoff teams in a row. Very impressive. They lose a game to the Canes, sucks. Then on Sunday they win a close game against the Lightning. And right now, they're up against the Dallas Stars, another playoff team. Like, I looked at this schedule this month, and I said, this was one of the toughest months, and they have been meeting that challenge and then some. The Wings look like the playoff team that they look like at the start of the season. I said going into this month, I still think they're a playoff team unless they really fall apart here. But they have done pretty darn well, and they got a long home stretch of games here, including this one. They still got 3 more games at home against the Flyers, the Golden Knights, and the Senators. Now, if they could win again, if they could do 2 out of 3 out of those games, and if they could win tonight, we're feeling real good in the neighborhood. We'll say that. Call us Applebee's because we're feeling good in the neighborhood. But the other thing I want to point out about this Red Wings team is it's not like it's just one guy, right? It's not like it's just like it's a lot of different players. Like it's Dylan Larkin is leading the team in points with 41, and I'm not accounting for this game. So if this changes, but it's Dylan Larkin making an impact. Obviously, Alex DeBrincat, you bring him in, he's making an impact. Lucas Raymond having a career year. Moritz Seider also having a career year. Like you have you also have guys, though, like David Perron, who's still pretty effective. You have Andrew Kopp having a solid year. You have JT Comfort, great addition, having a great year. You have Daniel Sprong, who was, I don't know why Seattle let this guy go, because he's a 30-point player in 46 games. He's got 12 goals on the season. He's playing pretty darn good. You got Gostisbehere, who's an offensive defenseman, having a great year. Like, it's the depth of this team is very, very good, and it bodes well for the success of the franchise in the future. But right now, this Wings team, this is a darn good team. They're playing really, really solid hockey. And on the other side of it, in the goaltending side, Alex Lyon, you're goalie number one. Like right now, it has listed Alex Lyon as goalie 2. No, Alex Lyon is goalie 1 for the rest of the season. James Reimer, he's all right. Ville Husso, he's all right. Alex Lyon has been playing out of his mind. Like in the last few games, right now he's got a sub-3 goals against average. He's got a .924 save percentage. Like he's playing really, really good hockey. And I don't know how long it'll last. But the additions, and this is also another point. The Lions, the Red Wings are right now without Patrick Kane, who had, since they acquired him, been playing really solid. I mean, he's played. Let me find his stats here. In 19 games, he just got 16 points. Nothing special. Just roughly a point a game, a little under a point a game there. But like you're seeing this without Patrick Kane. So, I just look at this team, and there's really not a player where I'm like, I just hate you. Like you're just useless. You know what I like? Ben Sherrod is a plus player. He's had 12 points. He's been solid. He's been decent. Our worst player of the season right now is Klim Kostin, who has just 4 points, but he's still a plus player. He's a +2 player. Again, if you count that for anything, I don't really put too much stock into it, but even our bottom 4 players in points, all of them are plus players. Justin Hall, plus player. Christian Fischer, plus player. Oli Mata, plus player. And then I already mentioned Klim Kostin, plus player. Like the depth on this team is better than it's ever been. They're playing at a high level right now. You have plenty of young prospects in Grand Rapids, with the Grand Rapids Griffins, in the AHL, in Simon Edvinsson, in Marco Kasper, who's heating up. Like you have depth, and there's going to be more guys coming as the season goes. And as the years go by, you're going to have more guys ready to go. So it's looking good for Red Wing hockey for the near future. It's looking good right now. I just want to make the playoffs at this point, because once you make the playoffs, it's anybody's game. I don't care what team you are. It's anybody's game in the NHL, because playoff hockey is something else. And I vaguely remember it being a kid, but I remember when the Wings were, on a streak where every year they're making the playoffs, and you took it for granted. But now, Little Caesars Arena has never hosted a Wings playoff game. Hopefully this is the year that changes. That is the hope, at least. But speaking of hosting and things that you wouldn't expect to see, one moment. So I wasn't planning on talking any NBA this week because I have no reason to talk about the Pistons, because they're just terrible. And unless they're making history with a losing streak, there's really no reason for me to talk about them. They're just, they suck. Wow, great. The Bucks fired their head coach. Now, you will remember on this very show, we talked about the hiring of Adrian Griffin. Seth, a Bucks fan himself, didn't really have much of an opinion. A bit whelmed by the hiring. But I got to tell you, I'm not a huge fan of firing a coach mid-season. I'm certainly not a big fan of firing a coach mid-season when it's his first year. Like, what? I saw the news. I could not believe that this was real. Like, it was one of those things. The team was 30-13. They were one of the top teams in the East. They had just won 2 straight. I know that because they beat the Pistons. I don't even know what their win streak was. I know at least they won 2 straight. But apparently, from the brief notifications I've seen, it was personnel problem. He's losing the locker room a little bit. guys didn't really play well for him. Defense, according to Seth, I asked Seth because he follows the Bucs a little bit more than me, obviously, and he was saying, the defense just hadn't been as good as it had in previous years. Now, that is bad enough. Okay, firing your head coach, you don't know where you're at. I don't know who they're going to have running interim because unless they hire the coach, before their next game. I don't know when their next game is. But, unless they do it then, are they just going to be running with an interim coach? The real problem I had, the real concern I had with this was who they were considering to hire. That would be one Doc Rivers, who I just saw the notification a little earlier. Bucs contacted Doc Rivers. They are, quote, engaging in conversations with Doc for the head coaching job, according to Woj. Okay. I want to say this with nothing but the utmost of kindness and generosity, charity to Mr. Doc Rivers. He stinks. Okay? He's a loser. His teams lose every year. He had one championship run on a team that I could have coached, and outside of that, he stinks. Every single time he takes over a team that is loaded with superstars, that is loaded with talent, they just lose in the playoffs. And usually it's an embarrassing fashion. If you hire this guy, end the season. Just end the season. Just you know what? Boston, you're going to go. You guys go ahead. You guys go ahead. You guys go ahead. You win the East. That's fine. I don't care. Miami, you can beat us again. That's fine. Make it make sense. Why would you hire Doc Rivers? I don't get it. See, in the NFL, usually, this isn't always the case, but usually, when a coach loses, more often than he wins, right? When a coach consistently will lose in high leverage situations, say the playoffs, say the Super Bowl, say whatever, say late in the season, that coach gets fired and is never a head coach again. I think of Jim Caldwell. I think of Jim Schwartz. I think of basically a lot of Lions coaches. I think of, I'm trying to think of a few other examples. Regardless, there's many examples. Okay. Doc Rivers is worse than any of those head coaches, right? Doc Rivers is worse at losing, or better at losing, I should say, than Jim Caldwell was at losing in the playoffs. It is, at least Jim Caldwell only did that with, at most, he did it certainly with the Lions, but I don't know if he did it with the Colts. He might have done it with the Colts. But at least that, Doc Rivers has not won a championship since the Pistons were in the conference championship. Think about that. The Pistons, the worst team in basketball right now, they were one of the best teams the last time Doc Rivers was, in theory, a good coach. He has been the universally panned coach. He was sent to the media. He was sent to do play-by or color commentary for ESPN. He was sent to basketball heaven. He no longer had to worry about results. He could just comment on the game. It's not like, and I'm not even saying that he's a stupid person. He certainly knows the game of basketball. He played it professionally. He coached it for so. He knows the game. But there's just some players or coaches, players or coaches. There's sometimes they're just not good to win on their own. Everything has to be perfect. And sometimes it's even worse where they just can't win. They just can't. They can go wherever, they can be traded to wherever. It doesn't matter. They're not going to win. It's like Charles Barkley, Carmelo Anthony, Doc Rivers. Those are, that's just what it is. And why would he, if this was your supposed reclamation, this was your plan, right? If you're Milwaukee and you're okay, Things are getting really bad with Adrian Griffin. Players don't like him. They don't respect him. It's not good. We need a plan in place. When we fire him, we need to know what we're going to. What if we go to Doc Rivers? What? If I was the owner of the Bucs and my general manager was like, well, what about Doc Rivers? I would have fired him right there. I would have said, you know what? We don't need you anymore because clearly you don't know what the heck you're doing. What? In what world is Doc Rivers your number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 100 option? He should be out of the question. Obviously, your pool is much limited when you're firing a coach in the middle of the season, which is why I'm not a huge fan of doing it, unless your season is over, right? Unless it's the NFL or, the NHL or whatever, right? Like, if your season is clearly over, you're not going to make it, right? Like, it's more so a thing in the NFL because, that season is week to week and it's, you can more easily determine that. But it just seems like this was like a knee-jerk reaction. This seems like Giannis and Dame went to the ownership and they were like, we hate Adrian. He stinks. He's ruining the team synergy. Nobody's a fan of him. You need to get rid of him. And the ownership was like, oh, geez, well, Giannis, I don't want to make you mad. So, let's fire him. And then I don't know, Doc Rivers. It's like, what's gonna make Giannis mad? Losing in the playoffs again. I don't think he's going to be a happy camper if he loses in the playoffs again. Certainly not if Doc Rivers with his stupid, emotionless face and his stupid puppy dog eyes. Like, I couldn't believe this. And I'm at a loss for words because I don't know how you can look at this and say, oh, the Bucs, they're competing for the East. They got a chance to win it all. No, at this point, I don't believe in them. And I wouldn't even say that before. Before, I was like, yeah, they're 30-13. Giannis, Dame, they got a good shot here. Clearly, Adrian Griffin was so bad that they would rather have Doc Rivers. And be careful what you wish for, Milwaukee, because you just might get it. And that's not good. You don't want to get Doc Rivers. You never, under any circumstances, want to get Doc Rivers. You just don't. It's like the more that I think about it, the more like angry I get, and not like angry like full of rage. It's like sort of like an anger. Like, how are you missing a part of your brain? Like, do you have short-term memory loss? Do you not even remember last season? Like, everywhere he has been, he gets fired at the end of it, right? Like, and the team ends up worse at the end of it, right? Like, Boston hasn't won anything. And the Clippers have completely overhauled their roster since he was there, to be fair. Like, there's never been a place. There was some basketball YouTuber who broke down, like, all of Doc Rivers' playoff chokes and all, like, it's one thing to choke once. It's even another thing to choke twice. But to do it, like, basically every time, it's like you're good at losing. It's like you're an elite loser. Like, you're the GOAT of losers. But I could go on and on about this, so we'll move along. So, look, I guess you know what? We'll still do the music for the picks. I want to say we're on music 7. We'll just put it at music 7 because this will be, because this is basically the last time we do the music. I think. I don't think we're gonna do it for the Super Bowl, but you know what time it is? It's the time of the show where we get together and we have a great old time. I know there's only 2 games. Shut up. We're still doing it. Here's the picks. All right. So, look, we only got 2 games, obviously. Conference championship weekend. We're going to break down these games with about as much depth as I can. I want to try to spend, a good amount of time on each of these games. Breaking it down, going back and forth, seeing, rationalizing with myself. So, first of all, we'll just talk about our picks. Seth is taking the Ravens. I think we're going to just end up having the same picks this week. I agree. I'm going to take the Ravens as well. Look, on the one side, you have the Chiefs. And the Chiefs this postseason have looked like the Chiefs that we sort of expected them to be. Patrick Mahomes is winning them games. It's like all of a sudden their wide receivers learned how to catch the football. I don't know if people have known, like, you have, MVS catching deep balls. I was like, is that really? I mean, I don't know. Maybe they just get rid of they just put Kadarius Toney in inactive, and suddenly everybody like gets their talent back. I don't know if it's like a Space Jam situation. If like I don't know, he's got like alien powers, and he's just sucking the talent out of the wide receiver room. Travis Kelce is, he's old, and he's not exactly the Travis Kelce of yesteryear, but he's still an effective tight end. As much as I hate to bet against the Chiefs, it seems like, and this is going to be kind of a corny answer, I know. It just seems like the Ravens want it more. And there's a little bit of house money involved with the Chiefs, so there is that edge to it, right? Where they're thinking, we got nothing to lose and everything to gain, we got a chance to go to the Super Bowl for the second straight season, get a chance to win our second straight Super Bowl in a year where certainly nobody believed in them this year. I will be one of them. I thought there was something off with the Chiefs. The moment they lost to the Raiders on Christmas, that was when I was like, oh, okay, this Chiefs team isn't that good. But let alone, they're back. They're back in the AFC Championship. They're thick and thin. They managed to get through it. And they are a defensive team. Like, their defense is absolutely lights out. And the question is, will they be able to stop Lamar Jackson? I want to say these teams played earlier in the season. Why am I blanking on that? I don't know I can't remember if they did. I think they did. I'm not sure. But if they didn't, I don't know. I don't know if they did or didn't. I don't remember the result. So we're going to assume this is their first meeting. But with the Chiefs, if they're going to win this game, they're going to have to do it on the defensive side of the football. Or, alternatively, their offense has got to play better than it has ever played, because the Ravens' offense is going to score a lot of points. And on to that point, we'll talk a little about the Ravens. We'll talk a little bit about the Ravens. Okay? So, I want to just take a look here. I can see just their roster. Okay? Can I see their depth chart? Can I see that? Okay, it's loading. Let's say. I want their depth chart. Can I get a depth chart? I want a printable roster. Depth chart. Here we are. This is what I'm looking for. Okay? All right. Let me just run down for you some of this depth chart. All right? Okay? In the wide receiver room, they got Odell Beckham Jr., Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, Nelson Aguilar. I mean, you might as well just say, you know what? We're cheating. we're the Baltimore cheaters. And not because we're making any rules, because you have 4 high-level wide receivers like that. Like, when your worst wide receiver is Odell Beckham Jr., it's like the 2019 LSU team where their worst player was Randy Moss's kid. It's like, oh, okay, you're just cheating at this point. And then obviously, Lamar Jackson playing out of his freaking mind. Like, he is playing at the MVP level. He is living up to that contract, and you got to hand it to him. He bet on himself. He believed in himself, and it's paying off. And look, they don't have Mark Andrews. I don't know if Mark Andrews is going to come back for this game. He's not listed on the depth chart, but you have Isaiah Likely playing likely Mark Andrews. Does that work? Anyone? Hello? Is anybody still? Okay, fair enough. But, and then in the running back room, you got my man's Gus the Bus Edwards. And you don't even need Gus the Bus to be so super elite, right? Gus the Bus can be solid. But you have Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson last week was their leading rusher. So you don't even need Gus the Bus to be, Derrick Henry. You just need him to be relatively efficient. And even then, please, just throw up a design run for Lamar. It's over. This offense is just so incredibly potent. It's to the point where, again, it's just not fair. They just call it cheating. It's just called cheating in this world. And then on the flip side, on the defense, you got Roquan Smith, Kyle Van Noy, you got Marcus Williams at safety, you got Marlon Humphrey at cornerback. Again, cheating, not fair, not fun. Seriously, I mean, to the point where we basically, you know what? We might as well just give you guys the Pro Bowl team, because that's your team. Your team is the Pro Bowl team. Like, it's it's just like, again, it's a similar problem where like, oh, if your worst player on defense is Jadeveon Clowney, you're probably feeling pretty good. Like Jadeveon Clowney, who, yeah, I understand, wasn't the level of player that people wanted or expected him to be, but he's having a pretty solid year. People are kind of missing out on him, funny enough, and that's because the rest of his defense is having a great year. Like, and it's just this Ravens team is just too good. And then obviously special teams, yeah, Justin Tucker, that's your whole special teams. I don't care about anything else. If it comes down to just head-to-head Chiefs-Ravens, the Ravens I just think they're just better. And it's not anything against the Chiefs. The Chiefs have a really good defense, but if you put the Chiefs offense up against this Ravens defense, I just don't see it working out. I just don't. So we're going to take the Ravens here. We move along to the game that I am emotionally invested in, the game that I think we all know what's going on. We're both taking the Lions. Seth is taking the Lions. I'm so happy for him. He's joined it. We're a team of destiny. The Lions, okay. Well, first, let's talk about the 49ers. So, look, I talked about it before. The 49ers, you basically want to pick your poison with who's on offense. It's like, oh, they're not throwing it to Debo. Well, they'll just throw it to George Kittle or Brandon Ayuk, or they'll hand it off to McCaffrey, or they'll throw it to McCaffrey, or they'll just, I don't know, they'll throw it to Trent Williams. Why not? Trent Williams is listed as eligible. They'll probably catch a deep pass. I don't know. He's a big guy. I don't know. Why not? That's fun. And Brock Purdy is playing, Brock Purdy football, which is to say effective football. Like, this 49ers team, basically, to me, is like the evolved form of the Lions, right? Like, their defense is just a little bit better. It's a lot of it better. And their offense is experienced and raring and ready to go, right? Like, it's a unit in San Fran, and they are probably primed and ready to go to the Super Bowl. Like, I'm trying to think of a weakness on this team. It's like there isn't one. You have a Bosa on one side, you have a Chase Young on the other. It's bad news, okay? It's bad news on the defensive side. Let me pull up their depth chart, okay? Because it's basically the same darn thing. Like, it is absolutely, it is cheating in real life. It's just, let me see. Let's see. You have Chase Young in the defensive back room. You have Javarius Ward, and then obviously you have Fred Warner. You have just too many great players on defense. Now, again, I think the reason I'm taking the Lions here, for one, is because I'm a fan of the Lions and I want the Lions to win. So I figure if I'm going to be rooting for the Lions, at least then I'll also have picked them, right? So then I get it right. Not like it's going to matter for the standings for the postseason. I'm already going to win because we're both taking the same thing this conference championship game. But look, on the other side of it, okay, there's a part of me as a fan, I want to try to separate it, but I can't truly. I'm up front with you. I'm a Lions fan. I'm going to give you things from a Lions fan's perspective. I think this is kind of a team of destiny. I think that because of just they can find ways to win in multiple ways. And not like the 49ers don't do that. I'm not saying they don't. But it just, there's all the pressure on the 49ers, and the Lions playing with house money. And I think they love playing with house money. It was the same thing at the beginning of this season. When the Lions played the Kansas City Chiefs, it was house money. All the Lions had to do, really, was show up and look good, right? They didn't have to win. They just had to not get blown out. But they won out, and they won. And nobody was expecting that. Except me. I thought they were going to win the game. But even then, like, it was not, like, it wasn't live and die by winning this game, right? It was, if you can win this game, then you're for real. And right now, you're at this moment. This is the toughest challenge this Detroit Lions team has ever faced the entire season. And they've faced plenty of good teams. Don't even come at me with a schedule. Nonsense. They've played plenty of good teams. They've won those games. They've lost some of those games too. But so have the 49ers. I mean, people forget the 49ers lost 3 straight games and going into their bye week, right? Like, it's not as though, everything is hunky-dory in 49ers. And also, let me just point this out to the people, because this is a stat that I was not aware of. The Kirk Cousins curse, okay? Every team that has lost to Kirk Cousins in the regular season does not play in the Super Bowl. Now, to be fair to this statistic, only 2 teams play in the Super Bowl. So it's really not actually it doesn't, there's a lot more in play. But you know who the 49ers did lose to earlier in this season? That's right. It was old Kirko. Old Kirko, the Minnesota Vikings. So, look, I don't think it's like the Lions are going in as 7-point underdogs. Like, I think if they're going to win this game, it's going to be close. Obvious. I think it's playoff football. All these games are going to be close. This is one of those games to me, though, that is defining of the future of this franchise. If you go in and you look terrible, like you get blown out, it just ends the season on a sour note. And I know we've already done more than enough that we needed to. I understand. In general, you probably, a few weeks go by, you look back, you're like, you know what, it was a good season. 49ers team is too good. But you have a chance to do something that has literally never been done in Detroit. And I think Dan Campbell's aware of it. I think those players are aware of it. Jared Goff has been to a Super Bowl. We know this. And Kyle Shanahan, despite obviously those, I think, 4 NFC Championship appearances in the last 5 years, just 1 Super Bowl appearance out of those. So, again, to be fair, Lions have just 1 NFC Championship appearance in general outside of this one. So, we're dealing with a difference. We're dealing with 2 similarly tough curses, if you will. But I look at the Lions and they just look like the younger form of the 49ers. So in that sense, you might lean 49ers because they just have more experience. But in the other sense, I don't know. I think the Lions could shock the world. All they've done in prime time is win. For the most part. Even that Cowboys game, which they basically should have won, they have won the game. So, look, I know I'm coming out as a Lions fan. I know people are going to say I'm biased. I understand. I'm going to take the Lions. Seth is also going to take the Lions. Team of Destiny. And that means we would get a Ravens-Lions Super Bowl, a rematch of the blowout loss that the Lions faced earlier in the season. You know they would want to try to reclaim that game for sure. So that's it. That's how we're going to do it. So run down the picks. Chiefs, Ravens, both taking the Ravens. Lions, 49ers, both taking the Lions. So we have a Lions-Ravens Super Bowl in our picks. So that is it for the Conference Championship picks. And that is also it for the show. So I thought it would be a shorter show. I managed to talk a little bit more. I mean, I can talk a lot, so happens. But appreciate anyone for stopping by, hanging out. I will be live this Sunday. Conference Championship, 6 o'clock. I believe it's 6 o'clock, maybe 6:30. I'm not totally sure. It's gonna be a nerve-wracking experience, so you're not gonna want to miss it. Chance for the Lions to play for the Super Bowl. I mean, how often do you get to see that? I've never gotten to see it, so this is the first time. So looking forward to it and hoping for a Lions victory this Sunday because, man, oh man, this would be the most hype show if the Lions go out and win on Sunday. We'll just say that. So with that, appreciate everyone for stopping by once again. I will see you all hopefully on Sunday for the Conference Championship, but if not, we will be back again on next Tuesday, I should say. Break down all the sporting news, break down the Conference Championship, break down the Super Bowl, all that jazz. And with that, hope everybody has a great rest of their night and take care. See you later. Goodbye. See you later, guys.